Family Bonds, a prequel to Children of the Night. By Visual Pony. You went too far this time. Moonsinger was using her magic to wield a broom in the reception area of the Timberhead. There had been many visitors to Gemini lately, and Brightlight just never seemed to take the time to clean his inn on a regular basis. This was why she did it at least 2 times a week, if her other duties around the town allowed it. The changelings had been very active in the vicinity of the garden recently, but she didn't worry too much. Their mother's barrier was eternal, and it had protected them for over 1,000 years by now. Chrysalis had certainly tried to break it down, but the heavy casualties the Children of the Night had inflicted on her hive had taught her a lesson. At least that was what Moonsinger believed, when 2 blood-soaked foals charged through the door of the Timberhead. On their backs they carried a small unicorn filly with a light brown coat, orange mane and dark brown ears. Immediately Moonsinger dropped the broom and hurried over to the scared little foals. "What happened?" she shouted, taking her daughter from their backs and giving her a quick check-up. After making sure that it was nothing too serious, she turned her attention to the 2 colts again. "Changelings! We were on our way to Master Sakura for our weekly lessons when they attacked us," one of the colts said in a quivering voice. Moonsinger recognized Flametail's son only by his voice. His coat was soaked in red blood, which meant that it was that of a pony. "What about the rest of your class? If I remember right, there should be 6 of you." They didn't make it. We were barely able to get away ourselves. There was no way we could have helped them," cried the other colt, whom she identified to be Frostmane's son. "Okay, I don't blame you. It was very brave of you to bring Stardancer back, and I am very grateful for that. Tell you what, your ice cream is on the house from now on." Moonsinger tried to calm the frightened foals. Usually such behavior irritated her to no end, but there were more important matters than that right now. "And one more thing. Firehoof, you go home and tell your father about what happened. He will have to increase the patrols on our borders. And you, Cookie Jar, I want you to go and tell your mother to meet me at the usual place in 10 minutes. She will know what I mean. And now hop, 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 off with you." The foals obliged, happy to get home to their families and away from Moonsinger. They knew that the calm exterior that she displayed was nothing more than a mask, meant to calm them. They had both seen her explode more than once, and they didn't want to be anywhere near where it happened. 10 minutes later. Moonsinger trotted up to the barrier where Frostmane was already waiting for her. Her friend's mane flowed in a non-existent breeze like that of their mother, yet she was no alicorn. It was that mane that was her namesake. "You're late!" Frostmane bellowed even before Moonsinger had completely rounded the corner of a building. Apologetically she looked at her fellow unicorn, sticking out her tongue. "Sorry, Star had a few scrapes that I needed to patch up before I could leave. Took me a little longer than I expected." "So you're really planning on doing this?" Frostmane asked more calmly now. "You know me, and you know our mother's teachings. We must protect our families at all costs. Those who harm our families must suffer the consequences," Moonsinger replied, her expression changing to a serious one. Frostmane sighed. "I always thought you took our mother's teachings a little too serious, but in this case I have to agree with you. When has it last been that we had to do this? 50 or 53 years ago? They truly forget fast, considering that you almost blew the place up the last time we were there. This time I won't try to hold back. This time it's more than personal. They hurt my daughter," Moonsinger growled, resembling a timber wolf more than a pony. "I'm with you there. Cookie only has a few bruises, but I guess it's time to use my namesake again to show them how dangerous it is in the cold of night." The light blue unicorn sniggered. Without any further conversation, the 2 mothers made their way towards the changeling hive, leaving their mother's barrier behind. Both of them knew that there was a good chance that they didn't return, but they just had to do this. In their early years in Everfree, the changelings had harassed both of them more than once. Back then, their mother had still been with them, which frightened these insects enough not to overdo it. Ever since the Princess of the Night had been banished, however, they had gotten more and more brave/foolish. It didn't take long for Frostmane to spot the first changeling that was hiding in the darkness, most likely thinking that he had not yet been spotted. Her glittering blue mane shot towards the bush in which the creature was hiding, freezing it solid in an instant. "That's one for me. You're falling behind, Mom," she teased her friend, who was still wearing a dangerous expression on her face. Moonsinger knew that if Moonsinger used it, she would have to run for her life if she didn't want to be caught up in the blast. That wasn't even a guard," Moonsinger snorted as they walked on in silence. Several minutes later, Frostmane willed her mane and tail to extend as far as she could, encircling the entrance to the changeling hive completely. About 20 of the insect-like creatures had been standing guard there when she turned them into frozen statues. Moonsinger smiled at the display. Her friend's special talent had originally been used to freeze sweets and making ice cream. That was why her cutie mark was an ice cone with 3 different colored ice balls on it. She would guard the entrance while Moonsinger would enter the hive. There was some pony in there she wanted to talk to. She was met with surprisingly little resistance on her way to the hive's throne room. Only a few drones that had not been fast enough to hide from her or thought they could please their queen if they killed her had made even the attempt to stop her. This had been a useful thing for her. Because of it, she was now covered from head to hoof in changeling blood. Casting a teleport block over the room before entering, she thrust the doors to the throne room open. There she sat on her black throne, Queen Chrysalis. "Oh my, I would have thought that little Luna had raised you better than to just storm into a room without knocking. Why are you here? You know you are not welcome in my hive," the changeling queen said, almost bored by the sight of the blood-soaked unicorn. "Don't play innocent with me. You know exactly why I'm here. We're going to settle this once and for all. How low can one sink to attack foals?" Moonsinger growled at her adversary. "You can hardly blame my drones. Your young ones trespassed on changeling territory. It was our right to defend what is ours." The queen yawned. Moonsinger's fighting instincts kicked in. Something was off about Chrysalis's behavior. She was way too calm. Could it be that? "Don't tell me you fed on them yourself." "All right, then I won't tell you. Anything else you wanted before I kick your vessel's flank out of here?" Chrysalis taunted when a telekinetic blast hit her straight in the face, knocking her and her throne over. "This is it! I'm going to kill you!" Moonsinger shouted, her green eyes beginning to glow pale white like the moon itself. Her charge was met by one of Chrysalis, who had stood up as fast as she could to defend herself. The 2 mares exchanged blow after blow with their magic, hoofs, and horns. Chrysalis even bit Moonsinger's flank when she tried to evade one of the queen's blows. No natural weapon was left unused. Slowly but surely, Moonsinger could feel the spark of her mother's magic fade within her. If she didn't end this fight soon, she would die. Panting heavily and bleeding from several wounds, she channeled her most lethal spell. The blood on her coat started to move and formed whips that were as thin as a single hair. Red and green shimmers danced around her body now. She was satisfied when she noticed the panicked look on her opponent's face. The changeling queen had obviously hoped she wouldn't use her trump card. "What's the matter, you insect? Scared of a little blood?" she wheezed, letting her whip lash out at Chrysalis. The queen tried to avoid the many strings of blood that came towards her, but there were just too many of them. One pierced through her throat like a thin spear. The wound was not big, but it made it hard for Chrysalis to breathe. Blood began to seep into her lungs. She had lost, and she knew it. A few more of the thin strands grabbed her as she tried to catch her breath. "It's over," Moonsinger panted, her eyes slowly losing their glow when something cut her strands and positioned itself directly in front of Chrysalis. "Stop it, Moonsinger. You have made your point. I promise that our changelings will never again try to harm you or your fellow children of the night. Now go, please." The other changeling queen pleaded calmly. Her white mane hung limp on her neck, and her eyes showed nothing but sorrow. Moonsinger knew that Diamond was strong. She could not defeat her in her current state, and she didn't even want to try. Diamond had never done anything to harm her. She even considered Chrysalis's daughter her friend. "All right, you win, Diamond. Just make sure your mother keeps your promise. If I ever hear of you guys hurting any of us again, I will personally stomp your hive into the ground. You know I can do it," the unicorn said, barely above a whisper, to which her friend nodded. "I understand. I apologize on my mother's behalf. To be frank, I hoped that we would meet again under better circumstances," Diamond said, ashamed, when she was cut off by the gurgling voice of her mother.
"What are you doing? Get her!"
Chrysalis watched in horror as her daughter shook her head. "I do not wish to fight, Moonsinger, and you should know better than to mess with her kind. Let this be a lesson for you. Next time I might not be nearby to save your flank," she said, turning back to her unicorn friend that had beaten down her mother. Diamond knew that Moonsinger would never strike her from behind. The sound of the doors closing told her that her friend had left. All that remained now was to clean up her mother's mess. Again. Author's note: Children of the Night was my very first published piece of work and my first MLP fanfic. I loved the character of Moonsinger, and I always wanted to write something about her, so here it is. A story in which my OC Moonsinger plays the lead role. Enjoy! Some of the references won't make much sense if you don't read Children of the Night, but don't worry, you don't have to read it to enjoy this one-shot. Besides, I myself feel like I should give Children of the Night a complete rewrite. Okay, Pony, what did you think about this one-shot about Moonsinger and the Changelings? It was something I wrote, well, when the idea came and when I somehow had the urge to write something about the Children of the Night again. How did you like it? How did you like a Moonsinger beating down Chrysalis? How did you like the first display of why she is called Bloodsinger by the Changelings? Okay, sincerely yours, Visual Pony, and for those of you who don't know Children of the Night, I will have a link to that story here in that video, in that spotlight. You just have to click on it and you can listen to it. Sincerely yours, Visual Pony.